What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to Philly with John Marks on PHLY. Why? We're live on a Wednesday morning. Shout out, good morning to all of our people watching live. Our Mad Chatters every morning at 8 a.m. A community of Philly with John Marks viewers tunes in and says hello and good morning, like K-Red. Morning. A lot to talk about today, despite there not being any games. This is the one day, well, today and tomorrow, where now there's WNBA and there's summer league games, but it used to be where it was like there's only 1 or 2 days on the calendar where there's actually no sports, and there's actually no sports, at least of the 4 majors. Sixers did play last night. They beat the Wizards in summer league action. VJ Edgecombe played. We'll give you a recap and a review of his play coming up here later on in the show. All-Star game last night. What do we think? Right? All-Star game. Schwarber's obviously in a second, but what do we think about the All-Star game last night with the swing off? Because the swing off gave the National League a win, and it gave Kyle Schwarber the MVP of the game. So remember, it wasn't that long ago. And when you go back and you were looking at the records, like, all right, the AL was 22-4-1 since 1997 in the All-Star game. They dominated the All-Star game. And the one is, remember Bud Selig and that stupid look on his face when he's like, they're telling him, we're like, hey, there's nobody left. He's like, huh? Like, yeah, there's nobody left to pitch. There's no pitch hitters. The game's going to be over. And he's like, oh, how does that happen? So this is actually perfect to have a swing off in the All-Star game. Tie game. How often is that going to happen in an All-Star game? Not every year, maybe every couple of years, right? AL comes back, ties the game. They were down 6-0. They come back, tie the game, and now it's a swing off. Honestly, I didn't know of the swing off until it was tied and they went to the swing off. 3 players from each team get 3 swings. They don't have to swing at every pitch, but they get 3 swings. It's like the home run derby style, the batting practice. Boom, comes in, and he throws. Schwarber comes in. The National League is behind. He's the second batter. They're behind by 2, and so they were also hitting second. So they're behind by 2 home runs, and he has 3 swings and 3 home runs in classic Kyle Schwarber style. Just raking it, center field, right center, bam. And then the American League player comes up and he goes 0 for 3 and the National League wins. They didn't even need their third batter in the swing off. So immediately I hear a lot of people, I see a lot of people, and I think it's interesting saying, oh, this is what baseball is going to do going forward, is the swing off. They've tried the ghost runners. They've tried a bunch of different things. Why not have the swing off now? You can't do a swing off in a regular season Major League Baseball game. It was great for the exhibition. It was great. The All-Star game, these pitchers don't need to be out there throwing, right? Like it was great. Awesome. Really, really intriguing. All the players were out on the field watching it. There was legit excitement. Ellie De La Cruz was hopping all around out there. It was a lot of fun. Can you do this in a regular season game? Well, I already hate the ghost runner as it is. I hate long extra inning games, so I know why they're doing the ghost runner. I just wish they would give it, I don't know, at least 1 inning of regular baseball. And like the 10th inning, I don't need a ghost runner. The 11th inning, all right. The 12th inning, definitely. Why not go to a swing off in the 12th inning? Tyler Zuli's here with me this morning, PHLY Phillies. He's the baseball expert on the program. Your thoughts on the swing off, and if it can be a part of a major league game?
Yeah, I thought it was really fun last night. And so I know there's a lot of people who are being, curmudgeons today. Well, Kyle Schwarber shouldn't have won the MVP because the rules state it's only in the 9-inning game of the All-Star blow. Dude, shut up. Nobody cares. It's an exhibition game. And I'd say the same thing if Pete Alonso was named MVP. I don't care. It's an exhibition game. It's meant for fun. Do I think it has the ability to translate to a game? This one, I don't. I mean, I know that maybe they do try something similar in maybe a spring training format or something like that. But I think in the spirit of all the rules that they've put in place so far over the last couple of years have kept intact the spirit of the game, I believe, a little bit. Like, it's sped the game up, but it's not made it a different game. This would change the impact of a game. And I think that would be the one that would be like, I don't know about that. Like, it's fun for exhibitions and stuff like that. We're not doing it for a regular season game.
It's a little MTV, and you might be a little bit young for this reference, but they used to have Rock and Jock softball, and
I don't know that one.
There'd be a train that would be in the outfield, like driving through the outfield. You know what I mean? Like, too gimmicky. Sure. And
hit it here, win $1,000 or something.
Right? Yeah, like you feel like you're at a carnival. It's too gimmicky. But I'll say this, and I know this was done because of COVID. The 7-inning doubleheader, it was ridiculous. I mean, it's like you're having a game that's over after 7 innings. So I hated that. I'm glad they got rid of that. The ghost runner is very gimmicky too. You're putting a runner on second base to start the inning. It doesn't change the game as much as because that, at least you're still playing the game. Having a home run derby to decide a game,
right?
You never have.
And I'm pretty anti-shootout too. Like, at the end of a NHL game, I think you play 60 minutes plus 5 minutes of overtime. And you get to a 65-minute game where it's grinding and battling and physical and all of that. And then, all right, well, time for our skills competition portion of the game. And it's why they don't do it in the postseason, right? I get it.
Sure.
I kind of understand it in the regular season, but I also too, I think it's such a departure from the game that it becomes something entirely different. And that to me is the biggest change as to why, like, I wouldn't do it. I'm not a fan of shootouts. It would be like the NBA after a first overtime going into a 3-point competition. You know what I mean? So, like,
yeah,
you start to get away from that, the part of the game entirely. It changes the entire complexity of what you were there for the first 65 minutes or 9 innings or whatever it might be.
Now, remember, hockey used to have the overtime. It would a tie, so that you would get a point. Now everybody gets a point essentially, and then they decide who gets that second point on the shootout. And
well, and I will say too, I think the overtime point is stupid as well, because there's no other sport where you get a participation. Could you imagine getting a half a win in baseball if you take a game to extra innings? Like, here's your half win, you could earn another half win. Like
a participation point.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, I always thought the overtime point in the NHL was kind of stupid too.
Yeah. Well, so I wouldn't worry about them putting the home run derby or the swing off in a regular season game. Certainly not a postseason game. But the big story of last night, it just kind of, it reemphasizes the point of Kyle Schwarber. And in the headline that Tyler put for the show today, you can't let that man leave. And I have been adamant about this. I will continue to say it and continue to say it. John Middleton, this is an ownership thing. Dave Dombrowski has a budget. Dave Dombrowski can try to keep Kyle Schwarber. Dave Dombrowski may think, I don't know if this is the right move to make. Dave Dombrowski also has to put it out there like, we obviously want him back, and I think he wants to come back, but you have to prepare if players outprice themselves and they want to leave, they want to leave. Kyle Schwarber does not want to leave. The Phillies don't want Kyle Schwarber to leave. And John Middleton and the Phillies ownership group are not going to let a player like Kyle Schwarber leave. Even if it's the right move, or you can make the case, he's aging, he's a DH, which I don't agree with that case, but you know what I mean. There isn't any circumstance that I see the Phillies allowing Kyle Schwarber to leave in free agency. Just like with Aaron Nola, ownership decision, in my opinion. They weren't letting Aaron Nola, a guy they drafted, a guy that has been, him and Cole Hamels, the best players they've ever drafted that's come from their system as a starting pitcher. They weren't letting him leave to the Braves. So they figured it out by giving him the extra long deal and spacing out how much money he was being paid. Now, you know what I think about that contract, but still, the point is that John Middleton, this is an ownership decision now. Kyle Schwarber's not leaving. Kyle Schwarber might end up making 35. He has 30 home runs at the break. He's going to probably have 50 home runs or 45 home runs. That's all he's done since he's gotten here. You don't have any other power players on your roster. Bryce doesn't have the power this year. Sure, he can get back and maybe hit 30. You don't have anybody on this team or in the system that, unless you're going out and trading for them or you're signing them via free agency, you're not signing some power hitter in free agency and then letting Kyle Schwarber leave. He's here. He's important. There is no scenario that Kyle Schwarber is leaving Philadelphia and the Phillies. He's not going to get an 8-year contract. He's not going to get a 10-year, $390 million contract. That's not happening. His price is going to be semi-reasonable compared to the Sotos and some of the other players that have signed recently, because he is a DH and he doesn't play a premium position on defense. And we would think he's 42 right now. I think he's only 32 still. But there's going to be a lot of talk about it. There should be a lot of discussion about it. And this isn't just my opinion on what the Phillies should do, because obviously the Phillies can't let him leave. The Phillies are not letting Kyle Schwarber leave. He's too important to this team. You tell me, of any of the players that you say across all sports in Philadelphia that they can't lose that player. Quarterbacks in the NFL, the great quarterbacks in the NFL, but it's a team game in the NFL. You can lose one player because you're playing with 11 starters on both sides of the ball. Zach Bond last year was the closest thing to you can't let that guy leave. You couldn't let him leave. He was too important to the team. And linebackers don't make a ton of money anyway. He gets a nice chunk of money for a couple of years, and then if you need to get rid of him or he's not good enough anymore, you get rid of him. Right? Like Saquon Barkley came in and had an unbelievable season. They also made it to the Super Bowl without Saquon Barkley and scored 35 points in the Super Bowl without Saquon Barkley. So as important as he was last year, yeah, like the Eagles have been successful without Saquon Barkley. They won a Super Bowl with him. So he's pretty close. What's this Phillies team look like without Kyle Schwarber? What does the offense look like without Kyle Schwarber? Now, you can go out and sign other guys. Kyle Schwarber is really the only offense you can count on with this team right now. Bohm's a nice piece as far as being an above-average hitter, lacks power. Castellanos is all over the place, although he's been pretty productive. Trey Turner has actually been really good, but no one seems to view it that way. But he also, he doesn't when Kyle Schwarber is hot, he carries the team. Turner's pretty close, right? Not with the power, though. Not with the power. But he's good at the top of your lineup. I don't know who else on this team. They like JT. It's probably the right move to move on from JT. You just don't have a replacement. And you're going to have to pay a replacement. So anyway, it's just for everybody that's going to talk about it, and we will talk about it, and I will talk about it, there is 0% chance that the Phillies allow Kyle Schwarber to leave. That's my opinion, Tyler Zoo.
You know, the one thing too, by the way, with you bring up the question about the thing about he doesn't play a premium defensive position, right? And you're right, he is a DH, he doesn't play in the field. But I think the designated hitter position has become one that, because it's in the lineup every day across baseball, it does have value now. It's not just you're playing the National League, so you're playing, 15 games against the American League, and, maybe one of your good bench bats can DH for a couple days, or your first baseman can get off of his feet and you put somebody else at first and that guy is your DH. You have 162 DH games a year plus the postseason now. And the Phillies have a premier player at that position. Maybe it's not a premier position in the sense of defensive shortstop or defensive center fielder or catcher, but it's a position that's in the lineup every day. And the Phillies have one of the 3 or 4 premier guys at that spot. It's another wrench in this conversation of, it's not just a guy who you want to be a good hitter now. It's a guy who's in your lineup. Kyle Schwarber doesn't miss time. Kyle Schwarber plays 155, 160 games a year. And more times than not, he's in the DH spot. But there's so much value to Kyle Schwarber in the middle of your lineup that maybe the DH isn't a premier position, but for the Phillies, the DH is a premier position.
You have a premier player.
Right.
No, I think we both agree. When Boston traded Devers, a lot of that was because clubhouse chemistry. He didn't want to move around. He didn't want to play first base. He was mad that they took him off a third, even though he was a terrible defender. So he was a DH.
Right.
And he was unwilling to play first base. I think with all else being equal, you'd like to have a player that plays some DH, because Kyle Schwarber, if you put him in left field, I'm worried about him getting hurt, because last year he got injured when he was out there in left field. You'd like to have some versatility and be able to kind of shuffle guys in and out based on the scenario. But when you have a guy like Kyle Schwarber, it doesn't matter, right?
It's plug and play, right? 155 games a year. He's hitting somewhere between first and fourth, and he's hitting in the lineup, right?
So are you ready? His first year in Philadelphia, he played 155 games. Second year, 160. Third year, last year, 150. Home runs, 46, 47, 38. He's got 30 so far this year.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can't. He's going to be a Philly next year. It may cost them more money. Maybe they should have offered him more money in spring training. Maybe they'll regret Dave Dombrowski. I don't know what the offer was, but they very easily said no. And that was the last discussion they had on a contract extension.
Well, and one of the things, too, the Phillies have made it pretty clear they like to do, Dave Dombrowski likes to do, John Middleton likes to do. They are willing to hand out an additional year or two to keep the AAV in check. I think they're in a weird spot this year where coming up into the offseason, they may hand out a couple of contracts that are actually higher AAV to keep the years in check. Schwarber specifically, like, would they do 4 for $40 a year? They might. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like they might have to. They might have to do 5 for $200.
Right. You might go 5 for, 40 a year for 5 years or something like that. Like the same thing with JT. Like, I think the Phillies may be more willing to offer JT to say, like, hey,
2 for 40.
Right, $20 million a year for a year or two, but we don't have any long-term plans with you at this point. And I think they're in a spot now where this is the first time in a while that they're not giving out the 8 or 10-year deal. They're giving out the short-term deal with larger money value attached to it.
Yeah, I agree with JT because, I mean, so look at it this way. If you were to say it's too much money, he's regressed too much offensively, still good defensively, but like we're going to move on. You don't have somebody in your farm system that's ready to slide up and even play part-time plus. So you're going to have to sign a veteran. And if you want to sign a veteran that is any good, what's that going to cost you in today's game? It's going to cost like at least $5 million, and that's not getting a great player. It's going to cost you. So if for another $12 million you can get JT, it just feels like that he's coming back and it's going to be a shorter term. Because what team is giving JT Realmuto 2 for 40 or 3 for 60? Maybe, like, I don't think there's an offer out there that the Phillies don't match on Schwarber. I think there's an offer that they would walk away from JT.
I do too. And I think
if somebody wanted to pay him.
I think it is a real scenario because you're right. They're going to look at the defense and say, you can be our stopgap to our next guy. I mean, I take a look at last year's, the catchers that signed contracts last year. The highest contract signed for free agent catchers last year was a 2-year, $13.5 million deal for Kyle Higashioka. Do you want Kyle Higashioka or Travis d'Arnaud?
No.
Or now Carson Kelly ended up having himself a really good first half of the year with the Cubs, but he signed for 2 for 11. And if you told me at the beginning of the year Carson Kelly was the guy, I'd feel a little bit underwhelmed, right? Gary Sanchez. So you're talking about guys here that have signed that maybe are good at one thing but are bad at the other, right? I think about Higashioka, very good defensive catcher, not a great hitter. Same thing with Jacob Stallings, who signed with the Rockies. Really good defensive catcher, calls a good game, veteran, can't hit. Then you've got Gary Sanchez, can hit, can't catch, right? He shouldn't even be a catcher at this point. So if you're thinking about that kind of free agent, because good catchers don't tend to hit free agent markets, I think if you're thinking about that kind of catcher, you're willing to take the eliteness of JT at the defensive side of things in order to keep that in the organization, even though you know the offense is diminishing.
34 years old. When does he turn 35? Turns 35 in March, so he'll play all next season at 35.
Sure.
He's hitting 260. He's actually having a decent offensive season. 268, 5 home runs, 32 RBIs. It's been really good as of late. His defense is excellent. We know that. I fully expect JT Realmuto to be back.
Listen, if he hits 260 for the next 2 seasons and can be the catcher that you've had him be defensively, he had his best pop time of the season this past week against the Padres when he was trying to throw off Fernando Tatis, stealing second.
Yes,
the best pop time of the season for him. So if he can hit 250 or 260 and play the defense that he does, and be the battery mate that the pitchers on this team really like to throw to, there's a really good chance he's back. If it's 220, that's where the problems arise. But if he's at 250, 260, I think there's a really, really good chance he's back next year.
JT making almost $24 million a year in the final year of his contract. Salvador Perez making 20. Wilson Contreras of the Cardinals 18. Will Smith 14. McCann 12. Cal Raleigh is making 17.5. I think he signed that contract recently. That's going to be a hell of a bargain.
Yeah, it's looking really good for them now.
That's 38 home runs.
Well, last year he hits 30, and it's like, wow, this guy's got some pop in his bat. Strikes out a decent bit, low average, hit 30 home runs. This year it's like dude's he might get to 60.
Yeah, back in the olden days, I would accuse him of steroids, which I'm not going to do right now. But maybe JT needs to take some steroids for the rest of the season because he can make some real money. I guess the point is that the catcher market isn't really like not a lot of guys making big money, and that could be two things, right? It could be, well, look at the market of catchers, and a team may view JT as more valuable than the Phillies do, and be willing to offer him more money, or that's the market for catchers, and they're not making more money than that, right? And I tend to think that it's the second, it's the latter, where this is just the catcher market. Back when the offensive linemen, the centers didn't make the money, the tackles made the money, the guards didn't make the money. Now everybody's making money, but there's just positions in sports where you're not making as much money. And JT offensively, like if I'm a GM, and sure, I would love JT Realmuto, I'm not giving him 3 years and $75 million because he's going to be 35 years old. So it just feels like that it's going to work. All right, so we'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about the All-Star game because it was really, really good last night. Had some good moments, and also the uniforms. They went back to the regular wearing their own uniforms, and it just felt so good. It really did. Philly with John Marks, back in 2-2. Don't go anywhere. All right, listen, everybody. Golden Nugget Jewelers, and you've heard about Golden Nugget for a long time. Past 30 years, they've operated out of the same location in the heart of Philadelphia. So if they've been in the same spot in Philadelphia on 8th and Chestnut, you know what that means? It means they know what they're doing, right? Customers from all over the area, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, even Baltimore and New York City, come to Golden Nugget Jewelers to find the perfect engagement ring or wedding band. The staff's highly trained and dedicated to providing a personalized shopping experience and selection, right? Isn't it all about selection? It's unbelievable what they have there. Wedding bands, engagement rings, high-end watches, fashion jewelry, sparkling diamond necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and more. And then you get that final cleaning, and your appraisal with every engagement ring purchase. I actually, like in my safe that I have with important documents, that's what you have in there. You got to put it on your homeowners insurance and things like that. Not a better place to get it. Golden Nugget Jewelers have been a family-owned and operated business since 1987. Chestnut and 8th in downtown Philly. Since 1987. Are you kidding me? It's where Philly gets engaged. Golden Nugget Jewelers. GoldenNuggetJewelry.com today to learn more. All right, Empire today. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about flooring. When you're a homeowner, when you get to be an old guy like me, you like talking about flooring. Like, oh yeah, I love my hardwoods upstairs. I have amazing hardwoods upstairs. Comes at a price too. They're expensive. Vinyl downstairs in my basement in my studio. Empire today, the experts in the industry when it comes to flooring. Now, you can go to a showroom, you can go to the big box store, and they have piles and piles filling the aisles, but when you have a question, there's nobody there, right? And you think you're going to save money. Now you have to haul it away. Now you got to hire a contractor to do it. Empire today, from going to first stop is empiretoday.com/PHLY. Get a free in-home estimate. They come to your home. They bring the showroom to your home so you see your flooring in your house. They take measurements. You know what it's going to look like, right? But then they're there, right? Like now it's like, okay, they schedule the installation. The experts come over and install your new flooring, right? And then they're there for you. And then, all right, if you have questions, everything's answered. When it's finished, everything's complete. How's everything going? Like you have somebody that's with you. That's why you go to flooring experts like Empire today. Don't take a chance. You think you're going to save some money. You really don't. And then the inconvenience, everything's a pain in the ass. EmpireToday.com/PHLY, $350 discount. Just use the promo code PHLY. EmpireToday.com/PHLY. Hoo-ah! All right, we're back. Philly. PHLY ranks. What if? That's right. What if? So we had Tyler lead us off on Monday. We had the 76ers on Tuesday. Today, is it the Eagles today? Is it the Eagles today? This is such a great idea because it really does. It starts the conversation, and I could do these all day. I really could. Tyler had some really good ones. And by the way, if you didn't get to catch them live, you can watch it whenever. Just go to the YouTube. That's it. Just go to the YouTube. They're archived, PHLY, follow us, everything else. So you can watch it. What If Eagles show is 7 p.m. tonight. So what are the guys have in store? Tyler, tell us some of your what ifs that you had. I know you had Cliff Lee. If they didn't trade Cliff Lee, what would have happened?
Yeah, so Cliff Lee, what would have happened after they had acquired Roy Halladay and then obviously moved Cliff Lee? We talked about the this 1964 collapse. We talked about the Greg Lazinski staying in the game in 77 in the NLCS and didn't put Jerry Martin in the game. We talked about some good ones too, like what if the Phillies didn't sign Zach Wheeler? That ended up being a great signing.
Wow. So what would have happened? You know what would happen if they didn't sign Zach Wheeler? They'd be searching for an ace, and we'd be talking about an ace. I mean, Cole Ham, before they got Roy Halladay, the thing was always, well, Cole Hamels is a 1A. He's not the guy who takes the ball every fifth game and is like your workhorse. He's not Roy Halladay, right? Then they got Roy Halladay, they got Cliff Lee before that, and then after that. But yeah, that was always a good one.
Do you know who I think the Phillies would have signed that year if they didn't get Zach Wheeler?
Who?
Madison Bumgarner.
Who was shot?
Who was terrible after signing. Yeah, it was like
Arizona.
He was like 7 games under and had like a 5 ERA with Arizona. He was awful. The other option was to wait, and you know who they could have ended up signing in 2021? Taijuan Walker.
Oh my God. So
for more money?
They're probably still a playoff team without Zach Wheeler.
They might be a playoff team, but they're not a World Series team.
No way.
Like they're his numbers in the wild card, DS, and CS that year were outstandanding.
Yeah, he was really the only thing you could count on, if I remember. But Ranger too, but he pitched out of the bullpen.
He's in the bullpen, yeah,
out of the bullpen. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they went to a World Series in a season where they really trusted 2 starters. It was Wheeler and Nola, and then Noah Syndergaard started a World Series game. Like they weren't in the greatest of spots.
Alvarado was the one bullpen arm that you actually had confidence in, and then they overused them.
Yep.
And they tried to bring him in impossible situations, and it worked once or twice, and then it's not going to.
Well, and then they brought him in to face Jordan Alvarez, who, much like Kyle Schwarber, is actually really, really good against left-handed pitching. And I don't know. I think he put a ball that maybe landed on the moon. The dead center field. That was pretty much the end of it.
That was a grand slam, right? And that was earlier in the game.
I don't remember what the result was, but I do know it's still. I think it's still orbiting somewhere.
I'll never get that. There's certain images that you have in sports, like the shot against the Sixers, the Raptors shot against the Sixers. Like, I'll just never get that out of my mind. And that Alvarez home run is the same thing. It was like, wow. There wasn't a thought like, oh man, is it going to stay in the park? Nope, it's not going to stay in the park.
Yeah, there was a thought, is it going to stay in the park? Like the entire ballpark. Like, is it going to leave the stadium?
What game was that?
That was game 6.
4? Was that game 6?
Yeah, that was game 6. Yep.
Oh God, everything just
because they had gone up 2-1.
It was the grand slam in like the 6th inning. Yeah, they brought him in. They brought him in the high leverage situation because they're like, well, he's really our only guy, and he's gotten out of a bunch of things. Yeah, they brought him in. Wheeler went 5 1/3. They brought in Alvarado in the 6th, and yeah, there you go. Sir Anthony Eflin was really good out of the bullpen that run too. David Robertson pitched in game 6 of the World Series. Oh my God, I forgot.
Yeah, I mean, when you look back on it, the further we get away, it was a fun season. It was so much fun that they hit that spark. The Astros were superior to them in pretty much every aspect of the game.
Yeah, the 93 World Series where the Phillies really put up a good fight, and you can see like there were scenarios that they could have won that. Toronto was a better team. They had Hall of Famers across the board on that team. And the Astros was the same thing. The Phillies were at home with the lead in the series, but like we had just talked about, they
got no hit.
Yeah, Framber Valdez, I still to that day I see him dripping sweat and gripping that ball up. And anyway, all right. So real fast, your takeaways on the All-Star game last night.
I thought it was fun overall. Like I kind of have. I don't want to say soured on the All-Star game, but it's just not as fun to me anymore. I don't know why. But I thought it was a pretty fun one. They had a couple guys mic'd up. I thought Kershaw was great, mic'd up, kind of making fun of himself a little bit for throwing 72 miles an hour. And the Jacob Wilson interview was really, really cool, where the father-son interview. And to me, like, I know it's so like arbitrary, but the best thing that baseball did was finally allow them to go back to wearing their own jerseys.
Oh, it
Because
just looks so much better.
So much better. So much better. So
Well,
yeah, I thought overall last night, other than the fact that it started at like 8:25 at night, I thought the product was really good.
Yeah. They want the West Coast audience, so they kind of push it as much as they want. Yeah, I mean it's like anything here. You get people that like, yeah, kids can't watch the game. It's too late. Okay, you can DVR it though, or you can let them stay up and watch. When I was a kid, the Phillies sucked pretty much every year. So the All-Star game, and like you had said, you don't know why it doesn't have the same luster. I think it's a combination of all the All-Star games have lost some luster. This one means the most because these guys are really playing. Those guys were really playing last night. You can't maybe hockey, but those guys are really playing last night. And it's because we see interleague play, so it's not a novelty.
Right. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and you see the game, so you know all the players. Before it was the Phillies had their one player. They had like Ozzie Virgil or Steve Bedrosian as their all-star. And then you saw a bunch of guys and teams that you never saw. So it was cool to see Ricky Henderson and Jose Canseco from the Athletics because you don't see them during the regular season.
Right. My all-time favorite Phillies trivia poll from the 90s, because, that was kind of when I was starting to get into baseball, was the late 90s. And Heathcliff Slocum being the Phillies lone all-star the one year is so funny to me. But I do. You're right. I do remember the opportunity being like, hey, Randy Wolf is an all-star. Or the one year Jose Mesa was really good. It was like Jose Mesa might pitch it, in high leverage. But last night was fun because the game starts and Paul Skeens just comes out and he's throwing like freaking darts.
Oh, it was awesome.
100 up in the zone. Riley Green had no chance. Javi Baez had no chance. It was a fun All-Star game yesterday. It really was.
The Miz came in and had a 1-2-3.
Yep.
He's up there throwing juice. He had a 98-mile-an-hour slider.
Unreal. You could tell he was juiced. He wanted to be there. And I think after we strip away the whole like Christopher Sanchez thing, like the kid looks the part.
Yeah,
like he looks like he's going to compete in this league for a really long time.
It was the right move for baseball. They just handled it poorly.
Correct.
Make Chris Sanchez say you can't play. Awesome, you're an all-star. I don't care if the media is going to complain. There's 90 all-stars because pitchers can't do it. Right, so make him an all-star. He gets his bonus. It's deserving. He should be a 2-time all-star. And then this kid, the Miz, can be the novelty, which he was.
Sure.
And everybody cares much more for seeing him than Chris Sanchez. So Craig Kimbrell was an all-star in 2023, if you remember. I'm old enough to remember that. Who else here? So Pat Neshek. Oh, in 2017, that rat who would never take the ball.
It's funny too. When the Phillies brought him in, I always thought I loved him. I loved the side armors and the guys that throw submarine and stuff like that. And he was really good.
He was.
But he spoiled himself on everybody so quickly just because he was like, I don't want to be the closer.
Yeah, I won't pitch whatever it was where he couldn't pitch.
It's like, dude, you're the only good reliever in the bullpen. Like, you're gonna throw.
Yeah. Yeah, and the team sucked, and I even think if they were a great team, he wouldn't have cared. I remember guys like Larry Anderson. That Larry Anderson tells a story when he was traded to the Red Sox. Famously, Larry Anderson was traded for Jeff Bagwell at the trade deadline because the Red Sox were a playoff team, and they were trying to win the World Series they hadn't won for so long. Something like 40 straight days he either warmed up or pitched that season. Yeah, because that's like the mentality of those guys. I know Ricky Bo talks about it a lot. When called upon by your manager, you take the ball. It's the manager's job to protect the reliever. It's not if the reliever can't go, he can't go. I'm sore. Sure. You're not going to put you in there. But there's certain guys that won't tell you when they're sore. It's like, I got 15 pitches for you. I got 20 pitches for you. Rat. All right. So I remember this one. Randy Wolf in 2003, I was living in Hawaii, and I was still the best 2 years of watching baseball was when I lived in Hawaii, because you are 6 hours behind, which means I can watch the West Coast games of baseball And I also won my fantasy baseball league that year because I was able to do transactions when people were sleeping
at 1:00 in the morning,
right before everybody else. But it was so cool. I just remember sitting at a Fridays. I don't even know if Randy Wolf pitched in the game, but I just remember sitting at a Fridays in Waikiki watching the Major League Baseball All-Star game. It's a weird memory. All right, in 2002, Tyler Zuli, 3 Phillies made the All-Star game. Yes, who are they? One would be obvious, 2 would be semi-obvious, and then 1. So it's 2 position players and a pitcher.
So my guess, the obvious one's probably Bobby Abreu.
Good guess, incorrect.
Really? Okay. Roland was gone by then, I presume, or was it Roland?
Was still there. Roland is one.
Roland would be my guess.
And then a young player who made it for his 2nd year in a row at a premium position.
Is it Mike Lieberthal?
Good guess, incorrect. He made it in 2000.
Okay. Jimmy Rollins.
J. Roll,
yeah,
Jimmy Rollins. The 3rd was a part of a trade.
It's Vicente Padilla, isn't it?
It is Vicente Padilla, who at one time looked like he was going to be a stud because
he looked good stuff.
He just didn't have a good off-speed pitch, and he was a head case, I think.
Yeah, it's funny. Like everybody that they got in that Schilling deal, I think had like a blip on the radar moment, because there was a spot where I'm like, oh, Omar Dahl might be okay, and then he wasn't okay.
Because it's like he had good changeup. He just didn't throw hard enough. He threw throwing 87, 88.
And then Travis Lee was a huge prospect for the Diamondbacks at the time, and never really became the guy that you expected him to be. And
Travis Leave, as people would bring signs to.
Yeah, he was
no good.
Park.
And all right, this one, and then move on. 1999, the Phillies sent 3 All-Stars, 1 position player, the other 2 pitchers.
99.
The pitcher should be a Hall of Famer. One of the pitchers
should be a Hall of Famer.
Is not a Hall of Famer, and not because of his resume.
Oh, Curt Schilling.
Curt Schilling made it 97, 98, 99. He got traded in 99. One of the best players I've ever seen, certainly for the Phillies. You mentioned his name earlier. One of the position player. You mentioned him earlier.
Bobby Abreu or Lieberthal.
Lieberthal. You know what? Abreu made it 2004 and 2005.
Abreu is criminally underrated in this city. And I know people don't, he didn't run into the wall, or, he hit a lot of people's argument is like he hit solo home runs when they needed to, that was
Lieberthal.
But like Bobby Abreu, I think is just like criminally underrated in this city. You look at his numbers, he's a legit ball player.
Let me tell you about Abreu. And I don't think there's any. I think that there's something to when they traded him, how the Phillies kind of took off a little bit.
Sure.
When he was here, and Larry Boa said this to me, he wasn't late. Like he didn't arrive late. Like he wasn't it wasn't Allen Iverson showing up late, but he also wasn't early. You know what I mean? Like he was kind of one of the last guys to stroll in, and that's just his personality. And being the best player in a clubhouse on a team that doesn't have a lot of great players, when he's your best player, it takes away from what he is. So if he would have been on the team with Ryan Howard and Chase Utley and Jimmy Rollins, he would have been looked at as almost like a Jason Worth type player, because he was the best hitter on the team. He saw the most pitches. Bobby Abreu was most comfortable at the plate when he was down 0-2 in a count, because he would sit there, he'd foul it off. He would take a pitch, he'd take another pitch, and then he's hitting 3-2, and then he's smashing a single to left field. The problem is, in too many situations, when you needed a hit, he would take a walk. So there's a runner on third base, and they're like kind of pitching him around him, and he's comfortable taking a walk because, hey, I'm not going to swing and miss and get an out. To where I feel like a lot of people, including me, kind of wanted more production out of him, and it's just because the team around him wasn't good enough.
So I know they would have been lefty heavy if he would have been on that group with, Utley and Howard in the middle of the lineup. If he was with that team, does he hit 2? Does he hit 5? Does Utley hit
3.
2 and he hits 3?
Yes.
So if you backlog him just a couple years, you would go Rollins, Utley, Abreu, Howard.
Yes,
that would be a nasty top 4.
It's also left.
Right. That's my only thing, is you would be very lefty heavy.
If you remember when Aaron Rowan left after 2007, it was a big deal because the question was who's the right-handed bat to protect these lefties.
Sure, Jason Worth ended up stepping up,
and it was Jason Worth. It was a great signing by Pat Gillick, but yeah, like Abreu, believe me, Abreu would have fit perfectly in that lineup. He was a really, really good hitter. The problem was, like you had said, if you backlogged him, where he was in his career, and you can see it, he was a multiple-time All-Star, and he won the home run derby. So it became, Bobby Abreu is the perennial all-star of the Phillies. And that's when it became his clubhouse. So it's tough for younger guys to kind of be like, all right, and I'm sure they love Bobby Abreu. And like I said, he was never accused of being late, but also the tone for the clubhouse was being set by him. And it felt like when they traded him away, now the younger guys, Burrow became the guy. Chase Utley became the guy. Ryan Howard steps in. Now it became their clubhouse. Jimmy Rollins. And that was a big deal. It was. And it gave them salary flexibility too, because they really needed it. But anyway. All right. Well, there you go. Coming up, VJ Edgecombe played last night for the 76ers Summer League. We have our BetParx Parlay of the day. Get ready for some WNBA picks, I suppose. And much more. Philly with John Marks. PHLY. Why? Here's why. Because we're dealing with BetParx. That's right. All right. Maybe you're down. Listen, people are down the shore watching this, listening to this right now, right? If you're in Jersey, guess what? BetParx works. That's right. You still have to be in PA, New Jersey, Maryland. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. You know this, right? So even if you're at the beach or the pool or whatever, right, you can still play with BetParx. Plus, BetWire is now on the BetParx app. That's where other content creators, bet people like myself, we give you daily bets. You can find that right on the BetParx app. BetWire is the all-new sports betting live feed, game picks all across the country, and you can tail my picks and other picks as well. So when baseball gets back, and that's going to be on Friday, man, hit it full circle. How about this? Right now, with pro football training camps just a couple weeks away, why not look at big game futures to win the championship, to win the conference, to win the division, over-unders on wins, and much more. And there's also, of course, a lot going on in the BetParx app. Live dealer, blackjack, baccarat, hot online slots, poker, and much more. Right on your phone. You love to play, you play to win, you bet BetParx. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Maryland. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, true story. I love true stories. Yesterday I mentioned that my wife's shoulder and I don't know what she did to it, but like real pain, having trouble sleeping. So she made an appointment with her primary. And I'm like, well, why are you going to make an appointment with your primary? Well, they can refer me to, I'm like, so you want to be referred to Rothman when you could just go to Rothman. Like, what's going to happen? You're going to go to the primary. They're going to say, oh, well, it could be a rotator cuff. It could be bursitis. They're not going to schedule you for an MRI or anything like that. They're going to refer you to an orthopedic, Rothman Orthopedics. So she canceled her primary appointment, went to Rothman in Limerick, to the urgent care, to their walk-in, and was seen immediately, got an x-ray, right, was diagnosed with bursitis, was prescribed medication, and said in 5 weeks, if you're not feeling any relief or it's not feeling better, call and we're going to have to get imaging done. Right? She just took hours off of her schedule because then she would have to wait, get an appointment, go somewhere, whatever. That's Rothman, right? Walk-in centers, urgent cares, offices, 30-plus convenient locations, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and now in Florida. And it's the full spectrum of orthopedic care. She got an x-ray. As soon as he came in before she saw the doctor, it's like, we're going to x-ray you first. That's just efficient. It makes a lot of sense. Offices, urgent cares, walk-in centers, everything from MRIs, x-rays, physical therapy, and more. Hip, knee, shoulder, ankle replacements. They have a team for every body part. They're just not seeing some orthopedic that, I dabble in wrists and shoulder. Nope. Experts. RothmanOrtho.com/PHLY. RothmanOrtho.com/PHLY. Hooah! There we go. All right, we're back. Philly with John Marks. Just a reminder, if you haven't subscribed to PHLY Daily, from time to time when I'm doing the show, you might see me look down to reference for something, to look at the screen. Well, I'm reading PHLY Daily. It's available at allphly.com. Rich Hoffman, he does an unbelievable job. He puts together a sports page for you. Everything that's on the network and everything. Like if you didn't get to see the All-Star game last night and you want a recap of it, videos, written content, Kyle Schwarber getting booed. Boo, bleep you. He didn't do that. He smiled. At least the Braves fans have some type of self-awareness of what's going on around them. Losers. But anyway, allphly.com. It's an unbelievable reference. It really is. Right now I'm looking at on something on Bill Barnwell put out yesterday on ESPN.com and said the top 25 teams of the last 25 years. And he actually gave the Eagles respect. In 2024, they're the fourth best team in the last 25 years. Last year, winning the Super Bowl. In 2017, the fifth best team in the last 25 years. And then 17th, the 2022 Eagles. Just behind the team that won the game, which was the Chiefs. Tyler, I don't know if you saw the Bill Barnwell list, but
I didn't. I saw that the Eagles were ranked really, really high. I didn't see the list. So my guess is, like, what's the weight, right? Is the weight just who had the best roster, or is it Super Bowls matter and things like that? Because if you're asking who had the best team, 2007 New England, I think runs away with it, right? The Randy Moss, Tom Brady team.
And they were number one.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? Because, like, Brady threw 50 touchdowns. Moss broke the record for receiving touchdowns in a season.
Well, they were running the score up on teams, right. If you remember. They were dominating them.
Do you remember that Tennessee game? That Tennessee wore their old school Oilers jerseys, and I think they put up like a 50 spot on them, and it was just like
I didn't know it was Tennessee, but I'm just talking about it live right there. I was thinking about the 50 spot game where it was a total blowout.
They were just embarrassing teams. So I get that, but like the 20, I really do think that this past Eagles team has merit to be a top 5 team. Number one defense in the league. Offense rolled when it mattered most. And the things that they struggled with throughout the season, like early in the year, they were struggling to score in the first half. They would correct that by putting together a drive at the end of the half and scoring and doubling up and scoring out of the gate. And all of a sudden it was the Eagles, 7-point lead went to a 17-point lead on 2 possessions.
Yep.
And those types of things were really big for them. And then of course they come out and they just obliterate the Commanders in the NFC Championship game and then throttle Kansas City in the Super Bowl. This team does have a lot of claim to being a top 5 team in the last 25 years.
Yeah, and I believe Barnwell had said one of the reasons why it was only 4 was because they did struggle a little bit to start the season. They weren't they 2-2 at one point? And they, like, the passing offense wasn't even, as we all defend Jalen Hurts as we should, the passing offense also, like, the offense just wasn't great. They were winning close games to where you look at New England that year, Tyler, and there was no Tennessee game. But and
by the way, I apologize. It was the Bills. They were wearing the Bills throwback. It was 56-10.
So they scored. Listen, this is that team. And I know they didn't win the Super Bowl, but 38-14, 38-14, 38-7, 34-13, 34-17, 48-27, 49-28, 52-7 over Washington. That's a college score right there. 24-20, the Colts in the bye week, and then 56-10 the Bills. If you remember, they beat the Eagles, and AJ Feely was the quarterback for the Eagles in that game. But the Eagles put a template out for how you beat Tom Brady, which is everybody to that point of the season. They did this with Peyton. Like Ike used to talk about this with Peyton Manning. The last thing you wanted to do was blitz because you're giving him an opportunity. The way he sees the field was like nobody else. So you're going to blitz me. I'm going here. You want to blitz me? I'm going here. So the last thing you wanted to do was Peyton Manning was just, we're going to do a zero blitz. But with Tom Brady, that game, they said, you know what? We're going to go out. We're going to hit him. And they did. He threw the ball 54 yards and he had a Tom Brady type game, but the defense really got to him. I'm trying to quickly see how many sacks they had in that game. And it was only 3, but up until that point, teams were so scared of that offense that they were like, oh my God, what do we do? the Eagles didn't flinch at all. I think I was Chip Johnson still around 2007? Yeah, he was. They just went after him. And it was a template for the Giants and Steve Spagnuolo to use a couple of years later or later on in the season and win the Super Bowl. And it worked. It did. All right, let's get to our BetParx Parlay of the day. All right, Tyler. I don't even know. I picked the Sixers to lose last night just because I had really nothing else to do.
I didn't watch the game, but if you look at the box score, it looked like it was a college game.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that coming up in a second. I did not watch the game, but you can go to YouTube and you can watch a 10-minute condensed game, which isn't bad. It's better than not watching anything at all. But anyway, the game went over. So it's 6-0 last night. What inning was that? The 6th or the 7th?
Yes.
Because I had the National League and the under. And I loved the National League last night.
That lineup was like you looked at the two lineups and it just felt like the National League lineup was a little bit better.
Yeah, I think somewhat significantly better. So once they had 6 runs, Pete Alonso hits that 3-run home run. I'm like, all right, this game's going over, and it did. Mm-hmm. National League wins on a swing off as the American League comes back. Anywho, what do you got tonight there, Tyler?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go to the MLS tonight, and the Philadelphia Union are playing Montreal, and it is a battle of the opposite ends of the table. The Union, the number one team in the East. Montreal has 3 wins this year in 22 games, and their goal differential is -22. The Union are very heavy favorites tonight, no surprise, but there's not a lot going on, so I'm just going to take the Union in regular time to win this game. It's -250. I don't see a scenario in which the Union even draw in this game. I think they're going to come out and win by multiple goals. Especially at home at Subaru Park with the full complement of their team. I'm going to take the Union tonight on the regular timeline at -250.
All right. I'm going to Australian rules football here, Tyler.
Okay.
Brisbane is on the road against the Western Bulldogs. They're -195 on the money line and -11.5 on the point spread. I'm just going to take them on the money line. That line's telling me on the road, pretty significant favorite, but the money line doesn't match the point spread. So why not take the money line? So I'm going Brisbane -195.
Yeah, Brisbane 12-4-1 this year in 17 games. I don't know what that means, but
I mean
they're winning a majority of their games.
I had this one buddy. We used to go to before it was Parks, it was called Philly Park. So when you turn 18, you can buy cigarettes and you can play the lottery and go to Philly Park. So that's what we did. We went to Philly Park, and he didn't know really anything about horse racing, but I just remember him looking it up at the board, and he's like, "Play some." What are you doing? He's like, "I'm watching the numbers." He's like, "So like this line just jumped. This number just jumped like a minute before post. Boom." So he's just reading the lines. I feel like that if you know how to read a line, you don't even really need to know what the hell's going on. And I'm going to prove that this week for the rest of this week with Australian rules football. All right.
Listen, if you win this game today, I will never question you again because I don't think either of us know the rules of Australian rules football.
I do.
Do you actually?
Do. So back in the 80s, I think it was the 80s, maybe some of the 90s, when Sports Center wasn't live and you would see the whole morning, you would see Sports Center, and it would be the last one they taped. So it'd be like Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann, the same one over and over again. And before that, there was Kiana Tom, and they would have ESPN was weird. It's not like it is today. ESPN had a lot of different stuff. So when you're trying to fill programming, you need to have different things. Like at 3 p.m. every day when I would get home from school, I think it was 3 p.m., they would have AWA wrestling on ESPN. AWA wrestling, not live, by the way, and I loved it. But you would have Australian rules football on ESPN. And it's like similar to rugby, but they like run and they got to bounce the ball every 5 yards. And then they're trying to kick it through 2 goalposts. And it's like an oversized football. And there's like the longer goalpost, which is, I think, more points. And then the shorter goalpost or thinner goalpost, which is less point. I don't know. And then there's this guy that's wearing this suit. And he stands there. And then when it goes in, he goes, whoa, and he does the signal. And that's pretty much what I know about it. But yeah, these guys tackle each other.
The funny thing is, you could have absolutely made that entire thing up, and I'd be like, yeah, that sounds great.
No, pull some up. See if you can pull some.
I believe you.
See if you can pull some up, because I'm assuming 95% of the people wouldn't know what it was. But you score by kicking the ball through. It's essentially it's like a thinner goalpost, but there's two of them side by side, and you have to throw the ball. Sometimes they would do this punch where they punch the ball, and you have to either throw it or you have to like bounce the ball I think it's 5 yards or something like that.
Interesting. Okay.
There you go. So I love Brisbane tonight. I might have to do a bust out Australian rules football pick on BetWire. Or not. All right. So we mentioned the 76ers. They beat the Wizards last night. It was not a high scoring game. Sixers only had 9 points in the first quarter, and then they scored in the 20s in the second, third, and fourth. Just based on watching the 9-minute and some odd second YouTube recap, because I did not watch the game. VJ Edgecombe, he played last night. So really, like, that's what everybody's focused on. Same with me here. And watching the recap, you can't really get much of anything. He did not shoot the ball well. I think coming into the season and coming out of in college, he's 4 of 14, 1 of 6 from 3, perfect from the free throw line. He's coming into the NBA as not a polished shooter. It's not what he is. I think he's going to be fine in developing that. And his real game is his athleticism. Boy, when he gets a rebound, he is ready to go, and he is electric with the ball in his hands. It's going to be really, really fun to see what he can do with that. Not a lot of turnovers. I mean, overall, it looked like a summer league game with a rookie that almost has too much energy for the game, if that makes sense. But other than that, Broom looked good. Yeah, again, he's a polished college player, so you would expect that. And Justin Edwards shot 5 of 10 from 3. So it's good to get him in the summer league game, get him some more experience, get him some reps. And if he can shoot the 3, he's going to see some playing time, and he can shoot the 3. So he looked good in the recap that I had.
Yeah, one of the things that Rich brought up, he and I did the Sixer show last Friday, and he brought up the fact that, Justin Edwards actually is playing in a role that's not his normal role. He is a catch and shoot guy, a guy who thrives kind of almost as the third or fourth option on the floor. And you saw it last year. He was asked to do a lot more because of the injuries, but he was consistently getting up, 12 or 15 shots a game because somebody had to take the shots. But in the summer league, he was asked to kind of run a lot of the offense, especially without Edgecombe. I think Justin Edwards is going to be one of those guys who, hadn't played very well in the summer up until this point. This was probably his best summer league game. And because I think it's a little bit closer to the player that they're expecting him to be in the regular season, which is catch and shoot, be an offensive piece, but not the driver of the offense.
Right. Yeah, good experience for him. Gives him some versatility, some experience doing some other stuff. And with Paul, especially with Paul George being out now, and you don't know what his status is going to be, well, it allows for more minutes, and those minutes got to go to somebody. So, so we'll see what happens. So, like, overall, 76ers Summer League, I mean, I don't know. I think it's great. I love that it's receiving coverage now, and you're able to watch the games and everything else. But it's all going to come down to Joel Embiid and company, and we'll see. We'll see with it.
Always has, right?
Always has. Always has. It does every time I watch it. It takes me back to Ben Simmons being in the Summer League when I was out there, which was really, really cool. Because at the time, you're like, this is the next great player in the NBA. This is awesome. He's a 76er. And Embiid was there watching and everything else. And it was cool. If you're watching on TV, slide on over to allphly.com. We are in overtime. So now this is a funny story. So now I should text Jamie, but like now I would take a selfie with him in a second. So when we were staying in the MGM, and you're walking around the MGM and you're seeing NBA players and coaches and executives just walking around like they're tourists that are going to play blackjack or something like that, right? I think it was Thon Maker that was in this. We went to the steakhouse. Scott O'Neill and some other Six executives took us out to dinner. and we're like waiting to get seated in the steakhouse. I think it was Thon Maker because he was very dark skinned and he's like 7'2". And right away, Jamie's like, Thon Maker. And like today, that would be the best selfie picture ever. And I think is it more acceptable now? Because like before, didn't people kind of act like selfies was kind of like that's what girls do or something like
well,
like, oh, selfie stick.
I think it's more like for you guys specifically. I think it's more about the, what's the line of professionalism, right? Where do you draw the line of like, meeting somebody and taking a photo and putting it up on Twitter or something like that. I think that's not really as much of a thing anymore, especially what we do, right? If we were like real big time, big J journalists
or beat reporter,
you keep that integrity in check. But like we host a entertainment show, basically. We're basically entertainment news for sports. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's way more acceptable. Plus, I do think now, if you run into a player that, isn't in the league anymore, it's a little bit like I ran into at the NFL draft in 2016. I was covering it for college, and just randomly in the middle of like the auditorium, I ran into Chad Pennington.
Oh, in Chicago? In Chicago, you were out there?
Yes. Yeah.
I was out there with Jamie and Anthony as well.
Yeah, we were there for our college radio station. We were like all the way up in the balcony in the rafters. But we ran into Chad Pennington, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to see Chad Pennington in my life again. Like I don't know what this holds. Like if there's any kind of meaning to this, but like, I'm going to go take a picture with Chad Pennington because why not? Right.
Of course. Yeah. Like today, I just take a picture with anybody. That was a draft where I remember we were sitting in the theater and all of a sudden everybody's phone started blowing up and Laramie Tunsil, the gas mask, the thong mask.
Yep.
And this was like a half hour before the draft was starting.
Because prior to the picks getting traded, there was a lot of talk about him being the number 1 overall pick.
Yep. Yeah, no, he was that kind of a player, and he slid. It didn't end up mattering because he's made a ton of money. He just he signed big contracts. He's been a good player. But yeah, I like that was the Carson Wentz draft. And I remember right before he said it, you can hear Jamie yell, "Ah!" Or is it right after? I don't know, because it was or no, that was he stuttered on the Marcus Mariota. Roger Goodell he mispronounced Mariota by a little bit. And he like kind of stuttered and stammered before he said it. Anyway, they're my draft. That was so cool. You got to go. The Penn State sent you that Chicago. Is an all-time great town. Great.
Oh my! I had Chicago. A blast. I will say it was Chicago in April. It was freezing cold. But yeah, I had an absolute blast.
By the way, Chicago in May can be freezing cold.
This is true.
Yeah, but yeah, like a spring town, because I used to have a friend that lived in Chicago, and it seemed like I was there during the winter, pretty much one every year, and in the winter it is cold. Ooh man, that they call it the Hawk. It comes off the lake.
Right off the lake is brutal.
Woo man, it's cold. All right, well there you go. We're back tomorrow live at 8 a.m. Shout out to everybody. Tyler, what do you have? What do you have coming up on the Phillies show?
Yeah, little mailbag episode today. We'll check in kind of halfway point of the season, so we fielded some mailbag questions. We're going to talk about Gage Wood a little bit and talk about is there a possibility maybe he is with the Phillies at some point this year?
Right.
So we'll talk about that. We'll do a mailbag segment today and continue the grades that we started earlier in the week.
All right, that's coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. It's the Eagles version. PHLY ranks the Eagles guys. Take a stab at it. That's coming up at 7 o'clock. And again, if you haven't seen the other ones, just check it out. They're on our YouTube channel. All right, everybody have a great day. We'll talk to you live tomorrow at 8 a.m. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.